What "we don't talk about it" moment shaped your entire family dynamic? So this happened when I was 15, and we still don't talk about it. Like, ever. Not even when we're drunk. Not even when someone almost brings it up and the room goes silent. It's just the thing we don't mention. My dad Frank always organized these massive Thanksgiving dinners where he'd invite extended family, even people we barely knew. Dad was big on family traditions and making everything perfect. He'd spend weeks planning the menu, rearranging furniture, and practicing his carving technique. No joke. My Uncle Bennett was always the black sheep. He'd show up late, sometimes tipsy, with some random girlfriend. My dad would just seethe, but never say anything because appearances mattered more than anything to him. This particular Thanksgiving, I remember it was unusually tense from the beginning. My sister Mindy, 17 at the time, had been super withdrawn for months. Like, barely talking to anyone, staying in her room, the whole moody teenager thing, but worse. I figured it was just normal teenage stuff, but my parents were constantly whispering about her behind closed doors. Uncle Bennett showed up on time for once, shocking, but without a girlfriend. Instead, he brought my cousin Elias, who none of us had seen in years. Elias was older, maybe 25, and had this weird vibe. He kept staring at my sister in this way that made me uncomfortable, but I couldn't figure out why. Dinner started, and everything was going fine on the surface. My dad making his stupid jokes, my mom anxiously refilling everyone's plates, me just trying to survive another family function. But there was this undercurrent of something. Mindy wouldn't look up from her plate. Uncle Bennett kept clearing his throat like he wanted to say something important. My dad kept shooting these warning glances at him. Then it happened during dessert. Mindy suddenly stood up, shaking, and announced she couldn't do this anymore. My dad immediately tried to shut her down, telling her to sit, and that now wasn't the time. But Mindy just exploded. She started talking about how Elias had been messaging her online for months, how he'd been flirting with her and trying to get her to meet up with him alone, how he knew she was 17 and his cousin but kept pushing anyway, how she'd told our parents 3 times and they just told her to block him and not cause family drama, how Uncle Bennett had laughed it off when my parents finally confronted him about it, saying Elias was just being friendly and Mindy was misinterpreting things. Elias started denying everything, calling Mindy crazy and attention-seeking. Uncle Bennett backed him up, saying teenagers were always exaggerating for drama. But then, and this is the part that still makes my stomach drop, Mindy pulled out her phone and started reading the actual messages, word for word. Some were so explicit I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My dad stood up and started screaming at Mindy to stop, that she was ruining Thanksgiving, that this wasn't appropriate dinner conversation, not at her cousin for being a creep, but at her for exposing it. My mom just sat there frozen, staring at her plate. Mindy wasn't backing down though. She asked why protecting the family image was more important than protecting her. Why our parents were willing to invite someone who harassed her into our home and expect her to sit across from him and pretend everything was fine. Uncle Bennett eventually grabbed Elias and they stormed out. But not before Bennett told my dad this was why he never came to family functions, because we were all too sensitive and couldn't take a joke. After they left, my dad turned to all of us and said, "I'll never forget this. What happened tonight stays in this room. We will never speak of this again. This family doesn't air its dirty laundry." Mindy just laughed this hollow laugh and said, "That's the problem. It's not dirty laundry. It's me." She went upstairs and packed a bag, stayed at her friend's house for a week. When she came back, nobody mentioned what happened. Nobody. The night after Mindy left, I completely lost it. I screamed at my parents that they were disgusting for choosing family reputation over their own daughter. My dad's face turned this scary shade of red as he told me I had no idea what it took to keep a family together, that sometimes you had to make difficult choices. My mom just kept repeating, "You'll understand when you're older," between sobs. From that day forward, there was this unspoken rule that certain topics were just off limits. Uncle Bennett and Elias were never invited back, but we never talked about why. If anyone asked, my dad would just say they had scheduling conflicts.